to the entertainer talking sports.
What's going on, everybody? Obviously, most of what I do on this channel is New York based. Predominantly the New York Giants. I mix in some Knicks when I can, and I'm obviously a big Mets fan, so I'll have some stuff up on that as well. But there are certain athletes that you just have to talk about when things like this happen, and Kobe Bryant is one of those athletes. Unfortunately, in case you haven't heard, and I'm sure you have probably, Kobe Bryant today passed away in an accident. His daughter was on board as well, which makes it even sadder. And Gianna, I think Gianna Bryant was only 13 years old, and from what I have read, was an aspiring basketball player in her own right. Kobe had 4 kids and a wife, so he survived by his wife and 3 children. And since I've been watching sports, I'm 34 years old. This might be the biggest tragedy I've ever heard of. When you factor in that he was only 41, you factor in that his daughter was on board, and you factor in how big of a name he was. Kobe Bryant. I mean, when you think basketball, everybody when they're taking a jump shot, even when I was like 18, 19 years old, you would yell Kobe, when you were gonna hit the shot. And he's one of the greatest players to ever play the game. And I was thinking about it after he passed away today. When I first heard the news, obviously at first I was in shock. I'm still in shock. But I was thinking about it. I'm 34 years old. And I honestly could say from start to finish, I don't think I've seen a greater athlete in my lifetime. Now, Michael Jordan I saw, but I didn't see the beginning. Barry Bonds took steroids. You could argue Bonds, but he took steroids. You could argue Tim Duncan. And that's close. You could argue Tom Brady, but football's a 53-man sport. Basketball is much more individualistic. And you could certainly make the argument that Kobe Bryant is the greatest athlete I've ever seen play from start to finish in his career. Now, I'm a LeBron guy. I'll readily admit that. LeBron will probably be the guy that I feel is the greatest athlete I've ever seen when he retires. I guess you could argue Tiger Woods, how dominant he was, but there's certainly a case that could be made for Kobe Bryant being the greatest athlete in my lifetime that I've gotten to see from start to finish. I came in the league in '96 when I was 11 years old, and obviously he played for like 21 years, whatever it was, and he did them all those years wearing a Lakers uniform. And when he retired, he was, I believe, the longest, he had the streak for the longest amount of years consecutively played for an organization, which I think Dirk Nowitzki broke this year. But that says a lot about him, much like Eli Manning. Like I said in my Eli Manning videos, there's a guy that wanted to start and finish with the same team. And the thing that I admired most about Kobe Bryant, obviously, he was a tremendous player. I mean, when you look at his accomplishments, he was an 18-time All-Star, 2-time scoring champion, 5 NBA championships, 4 all-time in points scored, 2-time Finals MVP, 1-time regular season MVP, 15-time All-NBA selection, and a 12-time All-Defensive player. So he was a two-way player, did it on both sides. But the thing that I admire most about Kobe Bryant, obviously he was a champion 5 times, but was his competitiveness. They called him the Mamba, the Black Mamba, because he was so competitive and he was an alpha. And that's what I admired most, and that's what reminded me of Michael Jordan. And I think he always wanted to be the next Michael Jordan, and he was. I remember even when he was a rookie, I think rookie or second year player watching it as a kid, the slam dunk contest when he used to wear number 8 with the Lakers for all you younger kids that don't know. And that's when I became infatuated with Kobe. And I remember having debates in high school between him and Tracy McGrady before McGrady had all the injuries, best shooting guard in the league. And, as he moved up, obviously, he was better than McGrady. Won championships. McGrady sustained injuries, but I just always remember having debates and, admiring what the guy did on the basketball court. He was an incredible basketball player. He was a leader. He influenced a lot of people around the world. Of course, basketball is a global sport, and there were so many people that looked up to him. He was the Michael Jordan. I was kind of in between the two generations because I got to see Jordan. I got to see him beat my Knicks, win the championships, but I didn't get to see him start to finish. Kobe was the Jordan for the next generation. There's no doubt about it. Dropping 81 on the Raptors. The guy was a walking bucket machine, right? At the end of games. The other thing I'll say about him, even though I do think LeBron James is probably a better all-around player, there's nobody that I'd rather have the ball outside of Michael Jordan with 2 seconds left on the clock since I've been watching the game. And he's just a transcendent athlete. He's Definitely one of the top, probably 10 players who's ever played the sport. You could argue top five. It's certainly an argument someone can make. And it's just a terrible tragedy. There's not much else more to say about this other than, my prayers go out to his family. And I feel, obviously everybody feels horrible about this. You don't ever see something like this coming. There's been a couple of shocking deaths since not even outside of sports as well. This is reminiscent of Roberto Clemente. Obviously, I wasn't alive for that, but Roberto Clemente, of course, was a transcendent baseball player. Died in a plane crash, but to my knowledge, I don't think his kids were on board, which makes this story even that much sadder. George Carlin, I teared up. Not an athlete, but a great stand-up comedian, my favorite stand-up comedian of all time. But nothing as tragic as this that I could think of off the top of my head. In terms of athletes, and obviously I know him from on the basketball court, where he was as good as they come in my lifetime, and he also was probably one of the last great players to come out of high school. Obviously, that's not allowed now, but when that happened, he dropped to 13. The trade for Vlade Divac, I could name on two hands probably in his time period players that came out of high school that turned out to be great, which is why they changed the rules. You had a lot of high school players coming out, and they were going undrafted or going in the second round, but you got Kevin Garnett, you got him, you got Tracy McGrady, you got Kobe Bryant. I said him already, LeBron James, rather. But yeah, Jermaine O'Neal. But there were a lot of failures. He was one of the incredibly successful guys to come out of high school. Also, one thing a lot of people don't know about him is he grew up overseas. He grew up in Italy. He spent 7 years in Philadelphia before moving to Italy for 7 years, and then came back home and eventually was drafted by the Lakers 4 years later when he was just 17 or 18 years old. So just an incredible journey, an icon, someone that will always be remembered. You always remember that Kobe smile. That competitive spirit, and he unfortunately he's passed away, but his legend will never die. The guy will always be one of the all-time greats, and in my opinion, the second greatest shooting guard who ever lived, only behind Michael Jordan. But yeah, like I said, my prayers go out to him and his family, and I hate making videos like this, but I felt like it was a video that had to be made. As always, cheers.